Welcome to our podcast. The podcast series is called The Secrets of Yoni Art, and we are so delighted that you're here to tell us more about your art background, your passions, the kinds of work that you produce, why you make it. And so I will lead in with my first question. How did you come to be an artist?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think as far as my art background, I've really just kind of always drawn. As a kid, I was really into comics, both like Western comics and manga. That's really the context that I started drawing in. When I started drawing that kind of stuff, learning how to draw manga, that's all the like stock shapes and stuff, and then like starting to learn how to draw sort of like more classically, in the style of like the Western painting tradition. None of it really was of people like me. I'm a queer trans guy. I'm North African. And I just like never saw art that was of people like myself. Pretty much all of the art that I make now, whether it's like painting or through my like illustration or other multimedia work, is just about like trying to make there be pictures of people like me.
So are you self-taught?
I don't have an MFA or anything like this. I did like take art classes in high school and university, but like I'm pretty much self-taught as far as like upper level art.
Does manga still continue to be a source of inspiration for you?
I definitely still read a lot of comics
Okay.
of all kinds. I make a lot of comics personally and like games, sort of like interactive digital multimedia pieces. And so I still very much in conversation with that world as well.
Can you describe some of your most recent works, and also can you describe the work that's going to be included in the art, our Vulva and Vagina art exhibit, which is running from the 5th to the 21st?
I've been working on a series of paintings. They're all acrylic on panel. They're all nudes of myself. I think again, like I'm really interested in like the tradition of the nude in art, the tradition of the nude of like beautiful, like flawlessly white, hairless women. The body shape has changed slightly over time, but the like archetype is always the same. My own body has not ever been any of those things. And so I'm really interested in like depicting my own body in that same tradition. And also like the nude, there's a sort of hypocrisy in the tradition of the Western artistic nude that like the viewer can have an erotic feeling about the subject of the nude, but the subject of the nude doesn't have erotic agency. And like I think that's very strange. And I think that people like often respond to my paintings in the way of like, oh, well, it just like feels, like erotic in a sense. And it's like, well, all of these paintings are of naked people, and like these paintings of like nude women, it makes me think of like, there's a Renaissance, I believe, painting. I can't think of the name of the painter right now, that's called Vanity. And it's like identical to all the other nudes, but the woman is holding a mirror. And so it's like, oh, like it's fine for other people to eroticize like the female body, the trans body, to fetishize it. But like the moment that it's like, oh, I think this looks kind of cool too, actually, then it's like, oh, this is too gross and weird, actually. We don't want to look at it. And so I think that a lot of my work, like, deliberately prods at that sense of disgust that people have toward like representations of trans people of color, because like I have to exist.
So, when you think of the subjects, say there's a
Mhm.
nude person in the middle of a room, and there are artists or artist students learning and drawing the person. It's almost like they succeed when they are object.
Mhm.
They succeed when they are inert. They succeed when they don't give off desire,
Mhm.
because they're meant to be a tool for artists and art students to learn how to draw the human form. When you say that, the trans body, giving it agency, giving it voice, what does that mean for you? Like, what does it mean to give voice to the trans body, and to um, yeah, what does that mean to you?
I recently have started to do like figure drawing and modeling for a class that my friend organizes. And so like I've kind of like at the same time that I've been doing these paintings of myself that are sort of like anti the idea of my body of as an object, I have to like, like spend 20 minutes sitting like this, like doing nothing, like in the most neutral way so that the students can draw it. One thing that I've always struggled with is like visibility politics. I think that a lot of like politics that people try to do, whether it's for feminism or for racial justice or for trans folks or queer folks in general, is like, oh, well, like if we become visible, if our iconography becomes part of the mainstream, then like people will necessarily humanize us and like become accepted eventually. And I feel like, especially the last few years, it's become very obvious that that's not the case. We have to take a step further than just saying, like, here's a depiction of me in the style of like a beautiful male Renaissance nude, but it's like neutral and away and like, like it's not, like engaging with you, the viewer, as opposed to being like, no, like I'm a person. I need healthcare. I need immigration. Like, I need to be paid and not experience job discrimination. Like, I also have a sex life and I also interact with you when I have that. And you treat me in a certain type of way because you don't really think of me as a person. And that is the sort of confrontation that I think has to take place. It's more than just like, here's my body as an object for you to consume like you would consume any other object, but like, I'm a person. We're going to have this interaction together.
What choices are made for either the use of materials or lines or coloring that allow you to feel that your voice is being expressed in that way?
So they're actually painted on found panels. So this panel, as you can see from the back, has a great deal of sort of like paint already on it. And I found this panel, someone had like treated it with some kind of like dip marbling. And I just like painted directly on top of it. So a lot of the colors, I'm sure it's not that great on this camera,
No, I can
but a lot
see
of
it.
the colors like show through from the previous painting that was on there, which I think is a really big part of my work, like especially like my acrylic series of paintings. All of the canvases or panels that I've used have been recycled in some fashion. Nature is a really big theme in especially a lot of my other work. I really like putting like the trans body and the portraits, folks just like interacting with plants and nature. I'm a herbalist. And so like I think that the sense of like responsibility toward the land and environmentalism is something that I continue to sort of like do throughout my work. Even though of course acrylic is plastic, so there's kind of a weird tension there.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering with regards to the panel that you're going to be contributing to our exhibit, a portion of the imagery underneath is it coming through a little bit?
Mostly just in the form of colors. In this one in particular, I have some other work where part of it is just out of like cheapness in a sense. You can much more easily go to the thrift store and find a large canvas that someone has put like respectfully mid abstract painting on, and then gifted it to their mom, and then after the requisite amount of time their mom was like, okay honey, I'm donating this to Value Village. It's so much cheaper than a unpainted canvas. So I do have some paintings, not particularly this one, where like most of the background actually is a found canvas.
What is it about that you painting over another painting? Is there anything like deeper going on there?
I'm very stubbornly a traditional media artist for I think like similar reasons. I think that I really enjoy the sense of permanence and moving forward that this kind of work has. I think like, like there's something about just like human bodies in general as we, like get older. I'm not that old, I'm 30, but like I already have the sense of like, oh, like the way that my body is now is permanent. Things will continue to accumulate in my body and in the way that I have like taken care of or not taking care of my body that will just like persist forward even as I adapt and new things get added onto it. And I feel like that is like obviously like a big thing about like having a trans body, and especially like as I've gotten older and medically transitioned, like I have come to have acceptance for some aspects of my body that I didn't appreciate before. And then also like now the things that I have changed are obviously permanent in types of ways that I've had to adapt to, which are like obviously great for me, but like still changes and still things where it's like not that like I experienced regret in the traditional sense, but just the sense of like, oh, like this was an avenue that was previously open to me that is now closed. And like that is the beauty of agency and choice, but also, you know, a thing that we still have to like grapple with. As with when we make any decision. It's just about like the land too. Like I think about like responding to climate change and, you know, just like how like the land responds to crisis is like when we have like environmental succession, you just build and change stuff on top of what's already there. You can't go back.
My next question is, what art modalities do you focus on, and why do you work on those modalities?
Yeah, so this work is part of a series of acrylic that I've been doing a lot recently. I would say that my primary modality is like narrative actually.
Okay.
I make a lot of like zines, comics, and games. And so I'm always really interested in like the interaction between like the image and the story. And so I think like this piece is like part of a sequence because I think that like not that it has like a linear narrative, but I think that there's something about like time progressing through a series of works.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last few years, I've been doing a lot of games, basically like short interactive fiction pieces that are digital first, that folks kind of like work through. And they usually have like my writing and my illustration juxtaposed together. A couple times I've collaborated with a friend to create music to go along with them as well.
Nice.
And I also had to learn to program, which was hell. But all of the
Nice.
pieces that I do digitally incorporate hand-drawn media. I think that again, that sense of like the hand is something that I really go back to all of the time. Whether it's like through my watercolor work, marker work, I do a lot of pen and ink work. I think that I'm just always interested in like how to present it to people now, especially because so many people like interact with art through their screens. So I want to think about like what is an artistic medium that is like designed to come to them via their screen.
Right. And did you say hand? Like you're fascinated by hands? Or something?
I do love to draw hands because I struggle with it. But I mean more like things that are made by hand.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. So handmade art.
Yeah,
What themes or ideas inspire your work?
definitely like the land, the environment, just kind of like also like kind of what you were alluding to earlier, like this sort of perceived tension between trans people and naturalness, is something that I kind of like continually return to in my work, both directly and indirectly. Like almost all of my work like is, you know, especially my own like personal illustration is some variation of like trans person, an animal, and a herb, like arranged beautifully in a composition. It's just something that I like. Literally, this is my notebook.
Oh yeah.
um, so like this is just like what I draw by default. Part of it is like I really love going outside. I really love plants. I really love the land. And like I'm a herbalist. I study plants. I forage. I love gardening, all this type of stuff. But again, like part of it is like I am really interested in queer and trans history. And I think the more that you learn about queer and trans history, the more that it becomes obvious that like this idea that we're some kind of modern invention is itself a modern invention. I think that, you know, like as we trans people and also as the land is continually under attack by the same people, we have to like reclaim this sense that like we are that, like we literally are the land, like we are part of the ecosystem, we are in relationship with that, and part of that relationship is like as creatures with agency, like defending the land and defending our right to survive and adapt and do what we wish with ourselves, and you know, in consensual relationship with the rest of the land.
Interesting. Consensual relationship. with the land. Do we have a consensual relationship with the land? I have never heard it framed in this way, and I would be interested to hear your perspective.
I definitely am not the originator of this idea. I take a lot from particularly like indigenous feminist writers like Dr. Kim Tallbear and also Robin Wall Kimmerer. And I think that obviously the idea of consent is a little different when we talk about like non-human species. But I think that like on a very basic level, I think about the concept of the honorable harvest, if you've heard about that. It's something
No.
that Robin Wall Kimmerer again is fairly is generally attributed with sort of like popularizing it in the Western framework. And basically, it's the idea of like when you're foraging, when you're taking stuff from the land. This week, I'm really excited to go out and get some ramps. You would
Get
sort
some
of like
what?
ramps are a type of wild garlic. It
Oh,
grows
wow,
along the
okay.
Grand River. Yeah, so like when you would go out and take, something berries or some herbs, you would go up to your patch. You would kind of assess, like, oh, like, is this the first patch I've seen today? I probably shouldn't take it from this one. Now that I've seen that it's like the second or third patch that I've seen, okay, like, how much is there? How much should I take? How much will be left for other animals? How much will be left for the patch to propagate itself next year? And then how much will be left so that if I decide in a week I should come back, or so if other people would like to forage, that they can also take. And so, like, for me, just because I'm a like rules oriented person, I say like it has to be at least the second patch and I have to take less than a fifth. And so that is the basis for, we can't speak of consent in the sense of like I'm not a particularly spiritual person, so I don't really think about it as like I'm receiving direct communication with the land, except in the sense that like I can go to this patch of ramps year after year and I can see, oh, last year I think I took too much. I should take less this year. And like that is also a form of communication and consent because we're interested in each other's mutual thriving in a genuine way.
Do you have any art role models? And if so, who and why are they role models for you?
Oh my gosh, I really love the artist Lauren Y.S. She's a artist based, I believe, in California. She does these really cool surreal alien paintings, of which I have one print upstairs, of just these like weird, cool, queer babes and these like freaky squid things. They're so awesome. I also like every sort of like manga loving gay man of the last like three generations. Am completely indebted to the work of Gengoro Tagame, who is the sort of like uh definitely the sort of like grandfather of what's called the Bara tradition in Japanese manga, which is basically like gay manga specifically bind for gay men.
Yes.
Most gay manga is I feel a type of way about this, but most people believe that most gay manga is bind for straight women. So Tagame is the person who um, sort of like created a style that was specifically for and around queer men. Yeah, I would say also like a painter whose work I have sort of always been in conversation with ever since I was a teenager is actually Caravaggio. Um kind of a kind of a strange curveball, but I really really love Caravaggio's work. Part of it is I am really obsessed with the mythological tradition of Bacchus, of Dionysus. Of which there's one particular representation of Caravaggio's, but I would argue Boy with a Basket of Fruit is also a painting of Dionysus. And I also am really interested in Caravaggio's work because he also is like, historical queer male figure, obviously a troubled one in many regards, not least because I believe he maybe murdered someone. It's such a part of the like canon of Western art, but to me, it's like one of the first things in the canon of Western art where I could clearly see like male bodies that were depicted as like nude objects in that particular type of way that women usually are, which as a teenager just like absolutely captivated me.
You've accepted our invitation to participate in our 2026 Vulva and Vagina art exhibit, which is running at the Yoni Mudra Art Gallery in Kitchener, Ontario from June 5th to 21st. What motivates you to make art representations of the vulva space?
Kind of in a piece of what all of what we've been saying, like I think that, you know, like under patriarchy, like especially like cis hetero patriarchy, like the the like assigned female at birth body is both like an object and like something that can't have agency in the way that I was kind of discussing before. And I think especially like something that I have always like, it's also like a part of my own body that I have a troubled relationship to, as with many, I would say probably even most people with vaginas and vulvas. And the thing about that is like now it's a part of my body that I feel really happy about and like I attribute a tremendous amount of like joy and pleasure to. And I think that like that is something that I have realized that other people are uncomfortable with. And again, I have this like desire to prod that and be like, why though? Like, this is like the source of all human life. Like, not for me, I sincerely hope ever, but like in general, you know, and like I think that that is something that needs to be more celebrated in culture. And I think that a lot of things would be changed if like our bodies, especially the parts of our bodies that are sort of like frowned upon, shunned, all this type of stuff, are sort of hidden away. You know, like I think when I sort of like think back to my own like teenagehood and my like first coming to understand that that was a part of my body was around like getting my period, as with many people, right? And like I think that that instinct that I have to like prod at people's sense of disgust at things about me that are not wrong, kind of comes with that, like just thinking about like male members of my family and household and how they would react to like me discussing my period, me alluding to the fact that I had my period as if that was something disgusting. And like it's just not like it wasn't for me. I'm really glad that I don't get a period anymore, but like there was nothing wrong with it. Like again, like that's where we all came from. If that didn't happen, none of us would be here. And so like I think that as I have come to you know, like a space of positivity and neutrality in my own body, have a tremendous desire to honor the things about my body that I previously was not respectful of, I guess, and didn't really have care and appreciation for.
What what message do you think our society needs to hear about the diversity of identities that own vulvas and about their agency and their voice? Is there anything that you can elaborate on with regards to that?
I think that first of all, like obviously we're living in a time, you know, for now in Canada from the sidelines where we are witnessing a tremendous attack around the world on people's reproductive freedoms. And that is, you know, like by some people attempted to be separated from the simultaneous worldwide attack on trans people's freedoms. And basically both of them revolve around people's need to exercise autonomy over their own body and lives. And in on the other side, you know, the need of patriarchy to control what our bodies are for, so that we can just continue to make more, you know, underpaid workers for capitalists to benefit off of. And I think that, like, for me, that like communicating that we all have the same needs for reproductive freedom and we all have the same needs for bodily autonomy. Part of that is just showing how many people need that, right? Like I also have to, you know, have had the experience of being, you know, like 25 years old and going to the doctor and asking them to give me a hysterectomy and them telling me no because I might have babies for somebody one day. Like that's not just a cis woman experience. And I think that we, you know, it's not that it's not important that cis women also experience that. It's not because I, a man, experience that that suddenly it's important. Of course not. But like that solidarity that we can have with each other around that and of other bodily autonomy issues that we all experience is really important. And I think part of that is just breaking down like I also have that problem. We have that in common. Like, let's work together about this.
Is there any connection between our current, either local or global, social or political context, and your art evolution?
I think that, like so much of my art is about politics kind of intrinsically, because like I am a person who experiences politics first-handedly, all the time because of the types of things that I experience, like having to try to get trans healthcare, like having to try to immigrate here, like having to try to like, you know, get a job and experience discrimination and all this type of stuff. And like I yeah, I guess that's really the main thing that I sort of have to say about that is like so much of my work is bound up in politics because politics is just like life, right? And like the fact that I want to like depict these like trans bodies um in nature in their natural states, unaltered, undecorated, and that they like have agency and challenge the viewer, is something that unfortunately in and of itself is deeply political now, because there are many people out there who would rather you just never see a trans person, and in fact that we not exist, and we're out here. And like I think that that also applies so much to like me in relationship to like work by trans people, because so much of popular artwork by trans people is by white trans people, and I think that like so much of my work also is like interacting with like what it means to be an Arab immigrant in the West, especially a queer Arab immigrant in the West, and like like this tension between like perceived as the like existential other from the West, and also as someone who is like supposed to have been like freed from my culture of origin, even though like my culture of origin is like actively being genocided by the West right now. And that's something that is deep, way more existential to me than that, like, my grandparents might be homophobic or whatever, right? Like that's kind of immaterial compared to the other thing.
Is there something emancipatory about art when you deal when you seek to express your intersectional experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, the thing that is sort of a relief about it is like the sort of layering. It's not that you're not accurate, of course, it's completely correct, but like I think that for me, like I don't experience myself in that way. Like I just experience myself immediately, I guess. And I feel like that what is really beautiful for me about like going outside and being with the land and like just like interacting with nature is like it's very much just like me as an organism, that is just sort of like like obviously I'm full of bacteria and microbes and stuff, but it feels whole, it feels unitary. And like the characters that I depict, like they, whether it's me or a different character, they all have like cultural backgrounds that they're coming from, and they all have, like lived experiences behind them. But like in most of the situations, it's just like them and some plants. And I think that part of it is also challenging this idea that like some experiences are intersectional and some are not, right? Like being a white cis straight man is also an intersectional experience. It's just a series of intersections that are prioritized. And so like the sort of like normalization of just like, oh, like I can just be the wanderer above the sea of fog. Also, like I can just be a guy looking at a cool mountain. Though, I think that that's an interesting painting in and of itself because of the way it creates distance between the viewer and the thing that he's looking at, as opposed to him being part of it, which is what I would like to be.
Why should anyone care about Vulva art? What's the point?
Hmm. I think that again, like people, um, like I don't know how to put this in a PG way, I guess, but like people are already quite interested in vulvas and vaginas. They have a strong interest. And so I think that the question is more like, why is it important to have art by and for the people who have those types of bodies, making that art and choosing how to represent it? And I think that it comes down to the question of agency, right? Like we're consistently having to argue for the agency of people of marginalized genders, including cis women, including trans people, including everyone who has a vagina or a vulva. And I think that like that can only be fixed by us actually having the ability to like take control of our bodies, and in so doing, and also as a prerequisite, taking control of how our bodies are represented.
Oh,
I think that's really important. And I think that, like, there are many, 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 many monuments to the phallus in the world. Almost all of them created by cis men, I might add. And so I think that, we can also have vagina art. It would be kind of nice. Also, vaginas are kind of cool. Like, I think that they're kind of slept on as like a cute and fun attribute of human anatomy. I think that, lots of people think they're gross and weird looking, and I think that those people are being dishonest with us and with themselves.
true, true. Wonderful. Aaron, thank you so much for chatting with me today and helping us all to learn a little bit more about your perspective, your insights, your own personal experience. It's been a very interesting and insightful learning experience for me to speak with you today.